the best stories just really beat the crap out of their characters, you know, because you need to beat them down over and over and over again, so their rise, you know, in the third act can be that much more sweet.
When you get into the zone of writing, what is that zone?
It's a focus and time stands still. Anything is sort of possible, which I think is a weird thing that I key in. Because when you say that, I can see what it looks like. You know, the sort of edges of my vision sort of focus. And I just like, I key in and things just come out. You know, the characters are talking to me. They're surprising me. That is the best thing that comes out in writing. When you've done all the pre-work, you've done the outlines, you figured out who your characters are, and you're sitting there and writing it, and then the character wants to do something. And then you just kind of like go with it and see where that takes it. So it's improvisational as well. You know, as much as I'm sitting there, you know, with my 20, 25 page Word doc outline, you know, using it for reference as I'm in final draft, like when I'm going through, you know, characters will do this or that, and it's just, you know, it's just that inspiration that's hitting you. So it's really great.
Did you write the screenplay for Curse of the Sin Eater in less than 3 months?
Yeah, my writing partner and I did. What we tend to do is spend a lot of time on the outline. Like that's where the majority of our time is spent. Because that's when, you know, it's really just a Word doc that we're passing back and forth, that, you know, the world is our oyster. You know, you're not locked into a screenplay, you know, or a script yet, you know. It's pretty good. That's really the way that I would like to work and continue to work. So we kind of did that for, you know, maybe a month and a half, maybe 2 months. And then the draft itself, I mean, I think it was about a month, maybe a month and a half or so. So yeah, when it gets to the script stage, what I love to do is just like get through it as quickly as possible, because then you can get to the rewriting later. But most of the time is spent in outlining.
And this is Will Corona Pilgrim?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And you've collaborated with him before?
Yeah, on many projects.
Right. And he's here in LA?
Yep.
Okay, so you're not like, you're physically seeing him and doing rewrites or different things?
Exactly,
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Is there a preferred place? Is there like a coffee shop or no, that you go to kind of?
I mean, it really would depend. Yeah, like there was never really one place that we would go, but we would always find a place to like meet up and like go through ideas. But since, you know, things like Google Docs, you know, like the shared drives, and now, you know, post-pandemic, the Zoom, like it's a lot easier to sort of do that, you know, just passing things back and forth. And the thing with something like the Google Docs is that when, like, we could be simultaneously writing and see what each other is writing.
Oh, wow.
Which is pretty great, you know, and like I'll write something and he could just like delete it and throw it on. And like, how dare you? But, yeah.
Okay. So it's not like a scene in Swingers where you're going to this coffee shop and working.
No. I mean, it's both out of our home offices in a lot of ways.
When you and Will were battling back and forth or just thinking of ideas, were you protecting the main character too much? Were there times where you said, you know what, we're being too easy on him or we're being too hard on him?
Yes. And I cannot speak for Will. I will definitely speak for myself. But that is something that over my, you know, writing journey, I have come to sort of realize about myself, is that sometimes with certain characters, like, I do take it easy on them, especially if I identify with their struggle a bit. You know, like with Rick, I sort of saw myself in his position. I was like, well, I can't go hard on him. Like, he can't do this, like he can't do that, because like I think mentally or even emotionally like putting myself too much into that character. And I've learned that I have to divorce myself, you know what I mean? Because we're looking at a story, and the best stories just really beat the crap out of their characters, you know, because you need to beat them down over and over and over again, so their rise, you know, in the third act can be that much more sweet for the audience. Because I think you know, thinking about that with real life, you know, like I think a lot of us feel like we get beaten down again and again and again, and we're looking for that, like, well, maybe in the future, like things will get better. And I think stories kind of help us, you know, solidify that, or give us that little bit of hope.
And so much of a comeuppance in the minds of people that are beaten down. I can only speak for myself, but you always think, well, if I had more money or whatever. So then when you see this character and how things change for him financially, it's interesting to watch it play out. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
And I can see how you would want to protect him. I wanted to protect him.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
liked
yeah.
that character so much, even when he did bad things at times.
Yeah, and I think that's important too. Is giving characters that sort of like, you know, sense of grayness. You know, because it's like, I guess if we're all confronted with that, you know, offer, would you do that to like live a life that we all want? You know, to have millions of dollars, nice cars and everything. I think that's what everybody wants, just in general. So I'd be curious to know how many people would actually do that thing, you know? And I struggled with that myself, you know, like putting myself in Rick's position. It's like, okay, like would I go through with it? I was like, maybe I would, you know? And then if I did, and those sins actually, you know, were coming to haunt me, you know, like, that's a hard thing to deal with. So yeah, like, but again, can't take it too easy on your characters, you know, even though you're putting yourself in their shoes and sometimes.
Right, I'm thinking of the movie, is it Indecent Proposal? With Robert Redford and Demi Moore and Woody Harrelson. And I just remember going to, I think it was Universal Studios, to the movies, and they got the tickets ready. We drove through and they go, last question, would you do it? So they were asking everybody, which was great because I never forgot that, you know? And it was like this sort of the 90s sort of dilemma. Would you do it? But this is different because you're also taking on past wrongs. Very, very fascinating, you know, thoughts and stay with me for a long time. How has your screenwriting process changed in the last 5 years?
In the last 5 years, I think I've gotten better, just in general, because I think with time, you know, comes seasoning, and then you just kind of get better. But I've definitely seen since 2024, or no, sorry, since 2020, like I think a lot of things changed for a lot of people in 2020 because of all that. But I just was able to, I think, kind of plumb the depths of my emotions. And so the first script that I wrote out of that was a very personal story based on something that was happening to my in-laws. And that's, you know, when I wrote that, I sort of did it, you know, for her, my wife, and for them. But people really responded pretty positively to it, you know. And I was like, oh, this is what I was missing all the time, is that like sort of deep emotionality, which I think for me just came with like growing older, you know, and having life happen to me. So I've been able to sort of get into that. And another thing around that time where I really wanted to stick to, because before I was writing a lot of different things. Like my first feature is kind of a drama, you know, a little bit of a thriller. And I've written, you know, with Will, we've written comedies, we've written period piece TV pilots, you know, we've written sort of musical type, you know, whimsical things. Like, and when I was younger, I was like, I want to do this. I want to write horror and sci-fi and romance and all of this stuff. And I remember, you know, a mentor saying, you should really figure out like your brand and what you want to write, you know, and that's like one genre. You're the action person or the horror person, you know, or the romantic comedy person. You're like that person. And like being youthful, I was like, no. Like, I can do it all, you know, I can do everything. And I realized that one, I can't, you know, it was good to do all that stuff because I realized like I can't do a romantic comedy, you know, like I don't want to write those specific beats that you have to hit, like, you know, figuring all of that out. But it was when I landed on horror that I was like, you know, it's where I started my career. You know, my very first shorts in college were all like horror. And then I kind of stepped away from it for a bit. But when I came back with all of the stuff that I had written before and the life experience as well, you know, when I resettled into like, no, like horror's the thing. And Sin Eater really kicked that off. It was like, oh yeah, like I got to keep doing this. Because my goal was around fall of every year, like around October, I was going to write a horror script. Just like, you know, for the season. But then I realized like, no, I want to write that like year round. Like that is what I want to do. Because I found that I could take any story that I would want to tell that people probably wouldn't want to make if it was like a drama or whatever. And they would make it if it was, you know, a horror movie, like packaged in that horror, you know, element. And I also just like, you know, messing with people a bit, like to be able to evoke emotions out of people, like when they watch it, whether it's in a theater, whether it's at home, at a film festival, whatever, like there is no better feeling than when someone or an audience especially reacts to something that you did. Like it's a powerful, addictive sort of feeling. And horror is perfect for that because you got the screams, the gasps, you know, the tension, and you can really play with that. So yeah, like I got into that and ever since then it's just been horror. And it's, you know, it's been working out for me, I would say.
Right. I'm thinking of Lisa Frankenstein. That's sort of a rom-com horror. I loved it. I thought it was good. But even in Curse of the Sin Eater, the main character, there are times when it's actually very sad for him, and there's a lot of emotion where I feel like a lot of film doesn't go there. So I felt, because of things in his past, that very you know, I wanted to protect him, and I felt bad for him a lot of times. So.
Yeah, and that's, I do think that Sin Eater was definitely like the genesis of me, helping me figure out what my voice, you know, as a screenwriter was. And it's like, I like emotional things, you know? I like deep emotions. I like, you know, family issues, you know, families sort of being at each other's throats. Like I found that, you know, to really work for me. And the character stuff, you know, and that's stuff that I used to write in other genres, but like I built that all together, you know, into the horror genre. And yeah, like it's really, it's good, and it's gratifying to be able to write those things, you know, and have those deep emotions, you know, like emotional horror. I think there's a place for that. I mean, you look at something like Terrifier 3, it's you know, super gory, and there's a place for that. And you look like Hereditary, and there's a place for that. Like that's the best thing about horror just in general, is that there's so many different types of it. You know, you mentioned Lisa Frankenstein, you know, it can be a romantic horror, like, you know, there can be funny horrors, Evil Deads, like just the world of horror is so broad, which I think is fantastic. And horror fans themselves are accepting of so much, which is great. Horror fans just in general are rad.
Yeah, they are.
But yeah, like in our movie, Curse of the Sin Eater, it's, you know, it's very tense, you know, and maybe it's a little understated. I don't know. It certainly does not have a lot of jump scares and like the sort of big budget, you know, scares that you would think. Like it's a little, I would say it's a little bit of a thinker. It's very tense. I think it's, you know, terrifying when you think about, you know, the situation in and of itself. And that is where, you know, my sort of interest in horror is the situations themselves, not necessarily the ghosts in the closet or the jump scares, but just like if people are in a really bad situation, what does that do to them? How do they get out? How do they survive?